You ever hear the story of how Ned Stark came back from the dead? No? Well, sit down, 'cause this ain't the kind of tale the maesters like to write about. It started in the black of night, under the shadow of the wall. Melisandre was there, that red woman with fire in her eyes and a tongue full of strange prayers. Jon Snow was watching, arms folded tight, not sure if he believed any of it. But he let her do it, 'cause something in him was itching for justice, and maybe revenge. "Bring him back," Jon muttered. "If you truly can bring a man back, then bring back Lord Eddard Stark. Let him see what's become of his name, and his kingdom." Melisandre looked down at the bones. They'd smuggled them out of the sept before the Lannisters burned it to rubble. Grey Wind's head still rested on the skeleton's chest, thanks to those monsters that called it a message. But Melisandre didn't flinch. She knelt, touched the cold skull with her hands, and whispered words in a tongue older than dragons. The air went heavy, like the gods themselves were leaning in to listen. Then the fire cracked loud, once, twice, and on the third crack, the bones started shifting. Jon stepped back. The smell hit first, like burning hair and wet earth. Then came the moan, a low, rattling groan from a man who hadn't spoken in years. Ned Stark rose. Not whole. No. His body was still patched up with bones and scar tissue. His head had fresh skin, but his eyes, they weren't the same. They were colder, focused, like death had taught him patience. "Where is Arya?" he asked. Not "how am I alive?" Not "what year is it?" Just straight to his daughter. Jon swallowed hard. "She's safe as she can be." "And Sansa?" "In the north. With you gone, everything fell apart." Ned looked around. "Then it's time I put it back together." The next day, word got out. The north was whispering again. "The old wolf walks," they said. Men started gathering, some for truth, some for fear. But when they saw him ride through the gates of Winterfell on a black horse, wrapped in a thick cloak and scars like old bark, they knew he was real. He was back. Sansa was the first to run to him. She didn't cry. Not at first. She touched his face like it was carved from ice. "You came back," she said. "I shouldn't have," Ned replied. "But the gods aren't done with me." They sat by the fire that night, the Stark banners hanging once again. Ned drank slowly, staring into the flames. "I've seen death," he told them, "and I know who sent it to my doorstep." Sansa leaned in. "The Lannisters." Ned didn't blink. "Cersei, Jaime, Tywin's legacy still walks the halls of the Red Keep, and they think the North forgot." He stood up, looked around the room. "I say we remind them." By the end of the week, banners were being raised, not just from the North. The Riverlands started stirring too, old friends, old debts. Men who remembered what kind of warden of the North Eddard Stark had been. Jon tried to stop him. "You died once, Ned. That should be enough." But Ned just shook his head. "And while I was dead, my kin suffered. My name was dragged through the mud. No, this isn't vengeance. This is setting things right." So he rode, with a small host at first, Ghost by his side, silent and snarling. Jon rode too, though he kept his distance. He wasn't sure if this thing was still his uncle, or just wearing his face. Then they reached the twins. Lord Frey was long dead, but his sons held the bridge. Ned didn't ask for a meeting. He walked straight to the gate and shouted, "You owe me blood!" The Frey boys laughed. "And what army have you brought, dead man?" Ned raised a hand. From the trees came wildlings. From the hills, old bannermen of the Tullys and Starks. It wasn't a full army, but it was enough to turn the Freys' smirks into sweat. They opened the gate. No fight, not yet, but the message was clear. The North was awake, and the dead had come to collect. Far in the south, Queen Cersei heard the news while sipping her wine. She laughed at first. Resurrected, what nonsense! But as ravens kept flying in, each carrying worse news, banners uniting, lords abandoning her, whispers of Ned Stark walking again, her smile faded. "If it's true," she said, "then we burn him again. This time to ash." Jaime didn't say much. He just stared out the window, gold hand tapping the sill. "He was a good man," he said after a pause. Cersei turned on him. "He was a fool, and fools don't win wars." Jaime looked at her. "Odd." "No, but they do make kings tremble. Back in the north, the old gods watched from the weirwoods as their son moved south, step by step, house by house. The dead wolf was marching, and the lions were starting to panic. They said the first real blood spilled was at Fairmarket. A Lannister patrol thought they could intimidate some river folk into loyalty. Big mistake. Ned rode in the day after. Smoke was still curling off the thatched roofs. Bodies laid out by the riverbank, half in armor, half in dirt. The Lannister lions had been stripped off their chests and burned in a pile. A girl, couldn't have been more than 12, walked up to him, holding a rusty spear like it was a sword. "You're him, ain't you?" she said, chin high. "The dead wolf?" Ned got off his horse, slow and steady. "I am Eddard Stark, and no wolf stays dead forever." She nodded. "Good. I killed one of them." She pointed to a body by the well. "Stabbed him right here when he tried to drag my ma out the house." Ned didn't smile. He just looked her in the eye. "You did right." Word of the battle spread faster than wildfire. The Lannisters started pulling their forces in tighter, away from the edges of the Riverlands. Too many ambushes, too many small folk rising up. They thought killing the Starks would end the north. They were wrong. At Riverrun, Edmure Tully opened the gates before Ned even knocked. "I thought you were a ghost," Edmure said, looking like he'd seen 7 of them. "Maybe I am," Ned said, "but ghosts don't carry swords." Inside, they sat at the high table again, just like old days, except this time there was no peace, only war in every word. "You'll never reach King's Landing," Edmure warned. "Cersei's built her walls higher. The Golden Company's still with her, and the city's full of wildfire." "I don't need to reach it yet," Ned replied. "I just need to make her afraid." Next stop was Harrenhal. A cursed place, they said, still half melted from dragonfire, but it made a fine camp. Robert Glover showed up with 300 men. "Took us a while," he said, dismounting. "Wasn't sure if we were following a man or a tale." Ned just nodded. "You're here now." "We are, and we brought more." By nightfall, 10 banners flew above the ruins. Stag, trout, direwolf, flayed man. Everyone who still remembered the oaths they'd made back when the North stood proud. Jon Snow kept his distance. Still watched his uncle with that look, like he wasn't sure if he should hug him or stab him. Tormund, the wildling, walked up beside him chewing on a strip of dried meat. "That him?" he asked. Jon nodded. "Yeah." Tormund spit. "Looks stiff. Bet he farts dust." Jon tried not to laugh. "He might, but he's winning hearts faster than any king I've seen." Tormund narrowed his eyes. "Maybe 'cause he's not trying to be one." Meanwhile, Cersei wasn't laughing anymore. She was pacing the throne room, barefoot, wine spilling out of her cup with every step. "How many men does he have now?" she snapped. 4,000, maybe 5, Qyburn muttered, flipping through scrolls. "And what are they, farmers? Rats from the snow?" Qyburn cleared his throat. "They're angry, and angry men are dangerous, especially when led by a symbol." Cersei slammed her cup down. "Then burn the symbol, find him, kill him again, this time properly, not with pretty speeches or swords. Use fire." Jaime stepped forward, hand twitching. "You send men after him now, they'll just die. You want to win? Cut off the ones feeding him." Cersei looked at him like she wanted to slap him, then stopped. "Then start with Riverrun. Burn it to the ground if you have to. Let the Riverlands see what loyalty costs." Back in the field, Ned was watching the crows circle above Harrenhal. "They're moving," he said to Jon. "I can feel it. Cersei's pride won't let this stand." Jon crossed his arms. "You sure about all this? War again? Blood again?" Ned looked at him. "I've already died once. Peace is for the grave. Right now we need justice. And after that? Then I go back to the dark. But not until her throne is ash." The first Lannister counterstrike. In came at Maidenpool. 2,000 men under Sir Martin Lannister, golden armor gleaming, banners high. They marched in, expecting another rabble of northern farmers. What they got was Ned Stark waiting in the mist, leading a wedge of veterans with nothing to lose. The Lannisters were crushed before noon. Ned didn't give speeches. He just rode through the wreckage, sword drawn, face set like stone. He walked up to the captured Lannister knights and looked each one in the eye. "You ride for a queen who burns children in their homes," he said. "You bow to a name soaked in treachery." One of the knights spat at him. "And you're a dead man playing hero." Ned raised his sword. "Then let a dead man be your end." And with one clean swing he ended him. The others were given a choice. Bend the knee or be buried with their pride. Most knelt, and just like that the dead man's war became real. No longer whispers, no longer a ghost story. Ned Stark was back, and he was dragging the 7 kingdoms with him. The smoke from Maidenpool was still in the sky when the Lannisters struck back. It was Riverrun they went for, just like Jaime warned. The Red Keep sent a raven before the soldiers. No message, just a single golden lion clawing a bloody wolf. Edmure read it, then tossed it into the fire. "They're not coming to parley," he said. "No," Ned answered. "They're coming to erase us." The battle started at dawn. Trumpets, hooves, and the thunder of siege ladders. The Lannisters had brought more than swords this time. They brought wildfire. "I'll ride out," Jon said, already strapping on his armor. "No," Ned said firmly. "You guard the keep. If I fall, you hold it." Jon stared at him. "You already fell once." Ned didn't flinch. "Then I know how to get back up." Outside the walls, the world turned red. The Lannisters attacked hard. No mercy, no delay. They thought the River Lords would scatter. They didn't. Ned rode into the thick of it, sword flashing. Beside him rode the Blackfish, old but furious. Glover, Umber, Tormund, all slammed into the golden tide like it was the last day on earth. From the ramparts, Sansa watched, knuckles white on the stone. Arya was somewhere out there too, they'd heard. Killing quietly, wearing faces. But this wasn't her kind of war. This was open, loud, meant to send a message. By midday, half the walls were on fire. A catapult had smashed the western tower. Edmure was yelling orders, dragging buckets, swinging steel. A Lannister knight breached the inner gate. Thought he could take the courtyard. Ned met him head-on. One strike, shield to the throat. The second, blade across the gut. The knight fell, gasping. "You're not supposed to be alive." Ned didn't answer. He just turned to the next. Then came the wildfire. Green flames exploded across the moat. The heat cracked stone. Men screamed and fell without even catching fire, just from the air sucking out their lungs. Jon yelled from the ramparts, "They'll bring the whole bloody castle down!" Ned looked back once. Then he charged into the smoke. Hours passed. The sun turned orange, then dipped behind the hills. What was left of the Lannister force started pulling back. They didn't break because of numbers. They broke because they saw him, Ned Stark, blackened armor, green fire flickering off his sword, walking out of the smoke with dead men behind him. Not a scratch, not a sound, just that look, like he was still in the grave and didn't care who he had to drag back with him. When it was over, Edmure leaned against a bloodied wall and said, "We can't hold like this again." Ned nodded. "We won't." Then what? We take the fight to her. 3 nights later, the council gathered in the burned hall of Riverrun. The fire barely warmed the stones. Tormund chewed on a leg of meat while Glover cleaned his sword. Sansa spoke first. She'll never stop. As long as she sits that throne, she'll send army after army. Ned looked at the map. I don't want the throne. You don't have to, said Jon. Just make sure someone better does. Ned looked up. I don't want the throne, he repeated, but I want her off it. So they planned, not for a siege, for something quicker, something sharper. We'll split, Ned said. Draw her eyes north, make her feel safe in the capital, then strike from the sea. Tormund grinned. Now you're thinking like a wildling, Jon added. We'll need a fleet. Sansa nodded slowly. The Vale has ships. Yon Royce will listen to me. Edmure pointed south. And the Dornish hate her too. Maybe it's time we knocked on their door. Ned drew his sword and stabbed it into the map. The point hit King's Landing. Then we ride, he said. We ride and we don't stop till the lion bleeds. Far across the sea, news reached the Iron Islands. Yara Greyjoy stood on the deck of her ship, listening to the Raven's message. She didn't smile, but her eyes burned. So the wolf's back, is he? She said to her first mate. Aye. And he's coming for the Queen. Yara looked out at the sea. Good. Let's make sure he gets there. Back in King's Landing, Cersei stood on her balcony, staring out over the city she ruled with fire and fear. Qyburn read the latest report. Riverrun is lost. Half your force dead. They say Ned Stark still walks. Cersei didn't turn. He'll walk into my fire and die again. Qyburn hesitated. He has support. The North. The Riverlands. Possibly the Vale. Cersei finally looked at him. Then I burn them all. I'll set the Reach alight. I'll starve the Vale. I'll salt the North. She paused, eyes narrowing. And when he gets here, I'll put his head on a spike beside his daughter's. But she didn't know something. Arya was already in the city, wearing a new face, watching, waiting. And this time she wasn't crossing names off a list. This time she was preparing it for war. Arya moved like wind through the alleys of King's Landing. The city stank of rot and smoke. Rats ran free, but so did secrets. And Arya collected those better than any spy. She wore the face of a beggar girl, limped when she walked, spoke only when she had to. But her eyes missed nothing. She knew the Red Keep had tripled its guards. She knew Cersei slept in armor now. She knew the wildfire stores had doubled. And she knew something else. The people hated her. Cersei had ruled with fire, and now even the fleas in Flea Bottom wanted to see her burn. One evening, Arya slipped into a wine house near the Dragon Pit. 2 gold cloaks sat at a table, deep in. Drink, talking too loud. She's mad, I tell you, one said. Ordering the baker's boy hung 'cause he served stale bread. The other snorted. She'll have us all wearing collars soon. Arya poured them more wine, bowed like a servant, then walked off. She didn't need a sword. The city itself was sharpening its teeth. Meanwhile, far to the north, Ned stood on the docks of salt pans, staring at the choppy sea. Yara's ships were arriving, sails like black wings in the wind. She stepped off first, axe on her back. Stark, she said. Greyjoy, Ned answered. You died. He gave a tired nod. Seems so. And now you're planning to walk into King's Landing? That's right. She cracked her neck. Good. I like mad men. They make things interesting. Behind her, 20 ships dropped anchor. Sails. Full, crews ready. We sail at night, she said. Tides will be with us. Ned looked over his shoulder at the others. Let's finish this. Jon stayed behind, not to run, but to hold the Riverlands in place. Ned had made it clear. If the capital burned, someone had to keep the realm from falling with it. You trust me with this? Jon asked. Ned gripped his shoulder. I trust you with the world. They didn't hug, didn't say goodbye, just nodded like men who understood this might be the last time. Then Ned boarded the ship, and the sails rose like wings of vengeance. Cersei sat in the throne room, the day the sky changed. No birds flew. No breeze passed, just silence, until the bells started ringing, but not in joy, not in surrender. They rang because someone had spotted sails. Dark sails, northern sails. Arya was already in place. She stood by the gate disguised as a city guard, a hidden blade in her boot, a map of tunnels under her tunic. When the gates trembled, she didn't flinch. When the walls shook, she whispered, "Now!" And the first gate fell. Yara's fleet hit the harbor like a hammer. Ballistas fired, oil pots exploded, screams echoed off the stone. Ned led the charge through the breach, sword in hand. Ghost was at his side, snarling like a demon from the snow. Cersei's army met them halfway down the main road, and then the real fight began. Steel clashed. Fire burst from towers. The Golden Company tried to hold the gates, but they weren't ready for a man who couldn't die. Ned fought like he'd never stopped. Every step forward was a memory. Every Lannister blade that dropped reminded the city. The North remembers. Tormund smashed through 3 men with a war cry loud enough to shake windows. Yara's men stormed the streets, axes raised, laughing through blood. Even the people joined. In pitchforks, rocks, pots, whatever they could grab. Inside the Red Keep, Cersei watched from the window, face pale. "They're inside the walls," Qyburn whispered. "I see them. They'll be here within the hour." She poured wine. Hands shook. "Then light the fire." Qyburn blinked. "Your Grace?" "The wildfire," she snapped. "If I can't have this city, no one will." He hesitated. "You'll kill thousands." She turned on him, eyes mad with fury. "Then let them burn." Arya was already moving through the tunnels. The wildfire was there, casks upon casks, enough to torch half the kingdom. She slit the first guard's throat, snuck past 2 more, then planted the charges she'd stolen from Qyburn's lab. 1 spark. That's all it would take. But she wasn't going to destroy the city. Not yet. She was going to take it from inside. Ned reached the gates of the Red Keep by dusk. Blood covered his armor. His sword dripped. A line of Lannister men blocked the doors. He raised his blade. "Move, or join the bones beneath us." One raised a trembling hand. "He's not even alive." The rest dropped their swords. The gates opened, and Ned Stark walked into the castle that had murdered his family. Cersei stood at the foot of the Iron Throne. Alone now, her guards gone, Qyburn dead. She watched Ned enter, didn't look away. "You don't belong here," she said. "Neither did you," he replied. She raised her cup. "To ghosts." He didn't answer, just kept walking. Then Arya stepped. From behind the throne, blade to Cersei's neck. Cersei froze. "You," she hissed. Arya smiled. "You're not the only one who came back to finish things." The throne room was dead quiet. Cersei stood with Arya's blade at her neck, her breath short, her eyes locked on Ned. He stepped closer, slow, steady, each footstep echoing through the marble. "So," she said, her voice dry as old parchment. "The Stark girls grew teeth after all." Arya didn't blink. "We grew them the day you killed our father." Cersei's lip curled. "He died because he was stupid. Honor killed him. Not me." "Then let's say we both finish what we started," Ned said, standing only a few feet away now. Cersei's eyes flicked toward the wildfire lever, just beside the Iron Throne. "You think this ends with my head on a pike? I'll burn this city first." "You already have," Ned replied. She lunged, not at Arya, at the lever. Arya slashed. Blood sprayed across the throne steps. Cersei crumpled, hand still reaching, fingers twitching inches from the trigger that could have turned King's Landing into ashes. Ned walked up beside her. "Look down. Your fire ends here." Outside the keep, the fighting had slowed. Word spread fast. "Cersei is dead," they said. "The wolf has taken the castle." Men dropped swords. Lannister captains surrendered. The Golden Company scattered. Jon rode through the streets, smoke curling behind him. When he reached the courtyard, he saw Ned standing at the top of the stairs, and he knew. "It's done?" Jon asked. Ned nodded. "It's done." Arya walked out behind him, quiet, clean blade. No expression. Sansa arrived soon after. She walked straight up to her father, looked him in the eyes and whispered, "Now what?" Ned didn't answer right away, because even he didn't know. The city held its breath. For a week, the smoke settled. Bodies were burned, streets cleaned, banners stripped down. No one sat the throne. Not yet. Yara leaned back in the council room and said, "Well, Stark, you won the war. What's next, crown and song?" "I don't want the crown," Ned said again. Tormund chuckled. "You keep saying that like it means something." Jon stepped forward. "If not you, then who?" Ned looked at them all. The war-hardened faces, the bloodied survivors, the angry, tired, broken people waiting for someone to tell them peace was real, and he said, "The throne isn't mine, but it should be earned, not taken." Arya raised an eyebrow. "So what? A vote?" Sansa stepped in. "A choice." She looked at her father. "If we break the wheel, it starts with us." 2 days later, the lords and ladies of the realm gathered, not because they wanted to, but because they feared what would happen if they didn't. Ned Stark walked into the dragon pit, not dressed like a king, but like a soldier. "I don't sit today as a conqueror," he said. "I sit as a man who buried too many friends to let another tyrant rise." Whispers rippled, eyes watched, but no one interrupted. He pointed to the throne in the distance. "That throne is soaked in blood. My families, your families, the people's. If we keep choosing rulers by birth or blade, nothing will change." Silence. Then Sansa stood. "Then we choose a better way." Jon Royce nodded. "The North stands behind that. Gendry Baratheon, now Lord of Storm's End, raised a hand. The Stormlands too. Even Samwell Tarly, flanked by maesters, spoke up. A council, a vote, lords choosing their leaders. One by one heads nodded, not all, but enough. The Iron Throne stayed empty that night, and Ned Stark left the Red Keep for good. Back at Winterfell, months later, the snow returned. Peace, seemed came quieter than war. Ned stood by the godswood, Jon beside him. "No throne," Jon said. "No throne," Ned confirmed. "You won the war and walked away." "I didn't come back for power," Ned said. "I came back to make sure no one like her ruled again." Jon looked around at the snow-covered trees. "You gonna stay this time?" Ned smiled faintly. "No, I wasn't meant to stay. Melisandre said so." Jon's jaw tightened. "You're leaving. Back to the dark." "I was borrowed, Jon, not returned." Arya watched from the gate as her father rode out, alone. No banners, no fanfare, just like he'd lived. Quiet, strong, with nothing left to prove. "You think he'll ever come back?" she asked. Sansa stood beside her. "He already did." Arya didn't say anything, just nodded and turned toward the wind. Time passed, not fast, not slow, just steady, like winter wind over stone. The war was over, but the wounds still showed. The Red Keep stood scarred. King's Landing walked softer. No one spoke the Lannister name loud anymore. And up north, Winterfell rose proud again, rebuilt brick by brick. It didn't shine, but it stood. Sansa ruled there now, not as queen, not as lady, as warden of the North, and they loved her for it. One cold morning, Jon rode up the hill toward the broken tower, the one that once held Bran, the one that still whispered stories in the wind. Tormund sat nearby, wrapped in fur. "You still brooding?" Tormund asked, chewing on a piece of dried fish. Jon dismounted. "I'm just thinking." "Dangerous." Jon cracked a smile. "Ned Stark's gone. Again." Tormund nodded. "Aye, this time for real, yeah?" Jon looked at the sky. "Feels different, like the air knows he's not coming back." Tormund stood, brushing snow from his boots. "He came back to end something. Maybe now we're meant to start something." In the Riverlands, Edmure Tully oversaw repairs to bridges. No gold lions, no hanging bodies. Just wood and water and peace. In the Stormlands, Gendry rode out to meet villages, not with armor but with parchment, land grants, food, protection. In the Vale, Jon Royce spoke of council, not crowns. And in Dorne, the sand whispered the same thing it always had. The North remembers. Arya didn't stay long. One evening, she left a note on the Winterfell hall table. No goodbye, no plan. Just a scrap of parchment that read, Still more to do. A Sansa. Found it the next morning. She didn't cry, didn't send riders, just smiled. She's never really here, she whispered, but she's always watching. Jon took Ghost north again. Beyond the wall, past the snow and silence, the wildlings. Welcomed him, called him brother, called him king. He never corrected them. One night around the fire, a child asked him, "Is it true? Your uncle came back from the dead?" Jon stared into the flames. "Yes," he said, "but not for long." "What did he do while he was back?" Jon's eyes stayed on the fire. He reminded the world who he was. Back in the south, they built a monument. Quiet, plain stone. No gold, no carvings, just one line. For the man who gave the realm a second chance. Some called it the Ghost Stone. Others just called it Ned's Watch. No body laid beneath it. No ashes either. Just the weight of memory. One day, Samwell Tarly stood in the new Grand Library, a book in his hands, shaking his head. Gilly watched from across the room. "What is it?" she asked. Sam flipped a page. "Some Meister wrote that Ned Stark wanted to be king." Gilly blinked. "Did he?" Sam chuckled. "No, that's the point. He didn't want it. That's why he deserved it." Sansa visited the weirwood often. She didn't pray, just listened. Let the red leaves whisper through her hair. She once said to Brienne, "If I ever forget who brought us back from the edge, remind me." Brienne nodded. "I don't think you'll need reminding." As for Arya, no one really knows. Some say she sailed west, chasing shadows. Others say she stayed in the city, wearing new faces, cutting new names from new lists. But some swear, when the snow falls just right, you can see a girl watching from the rooftops of King's Landing, quiet, still, sharp-eyed. Years later, when Jon stood atop a northern ridge, older, quieter, he whispered into the wind, "You did it, Uncle." No one answered, but the wind picked up, and somewhere in the silence, a wolf howled.